Hi y'all, long time no see slash talk. This is Leah from Mommyish, and I have been in New York over the summer. That's not the excuse for why you haven't heard from me in forever, but I was in New York over the summer when I created this toolkit, and typically I would create a tutorial to go along with it, but I didn't have my headset and I didn't have my software because I was working on a little laptop while I was in New York. So I said as soon as I got home, I would go ahead and create a tutorial for you guys. That way you would be able to really get a feel for how this toolkit works. It is very similar in utility to the original Patch Builder toolkit. I would say the biggest difference is our styles, I feel, look a lot better, a lot more realistic. Our brushes also, feel look much more realistic because I've learned a lot. I think that one was from, a good almost 10 years ago. So, sometimes it's time for like an upgrade. And I was asked to give this another go by some of my wonderful designer friends. Because we were working on a new collection for Memory Pockets Monthly called Groovy, which was sort of like 70s vibe, and 70s and 80s, or patches were like a thing. Actually, I love patches today too. Like, I've always wanted to create my own new illustrated set of like adult merit badges. Yeah. I had a fun one from the other day where I actually had never stayed in a hotel room alone with my children. I've always been with my husband or with a family member. You guys might not know this, but I don't drive because my vision is very poor. I have double vision because I have strabismus and amblyopia with my left eye, so I see double all the time. So I don't drive. And because I don't drive, I am not the one who's taking my family places. So the other day, I was able to stay in a hotel room for the first time alone with my girls. And I felt like I deserved like an adult merit badge of like first hotel stay by myself, even though like I'm 41 years old. But you get me? Like, it's the little things in life that you have to find, get your small wins in, right? So, totally off topic, but you feel me. So, merit badges. I think it'd be a good time. Style Queen. I've played with this idea for a while that if I was going to make styles and if I was going to focus on styles, because most of my main core design time full time now is with Coco Daisy. So I don't have a lot of time to create scrapbooking kits and things anymore. But I could, like, I feel like I miss making styles. Like, I love making styles. Maybe this could be my new adventure, Style Queen, and just sort of like a fresh start. So that's why we have here my little Style Queen patch. That's what that's from. I think I'd shown y'all that a while back too. But here it is yet again. Maybe we'll make it happen. What do you think? Should we make it happen? Should I make more styles again? Should I get back on jump back on the horse, get back on the wagon? What's the phrase? Like, my mom's from Puerto Rico and she always gets idioms wrong. And because she always gets idioms wrong, I learned them incorrectly too. So I'll say things and folks just look at you like, what in the world are you saying? Like, you're walking on thin water, like, and it's supposed to be like thin ice. Anyway, moving on, because I'm sure you guys want to know how to use this toolkit versus hearing silly life stories from me. Uh, so yes, our Patch Builder 2.0, the upgrade. So what I've done is when I created these, because I knew I was going to make a tutorial, was I saved everything as smart objects. That way I could go back in here and open them up to their original state. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can see. So these are all layered. We have all these layers. Look, I have some of the colors are different. I'm going to delete the edging here so you can, or not delete, but I'm just going to turn off so you can kind of see how this has been built. This here, like this element, as you see it, let me turn that one off too. originally was just, I'm going to clear our layer styles, was this. That's all it was. So if I go ahead and step back in history so you can see that this came from this. And even that is a little different because it still has some of the actions used for the horizontal. I can go ahead and turn off that as well. So let me go ahead and clear our smart filters so you can really see there. So this is what we started with. I work a lot in Illustrator now, so this was something I built in Illustrator, and then I just kind of pulled over layer by layer because I switch between the two programs a lot. But it's the same basic thing. You could build this here in Photoshop where, you know, this is a shape, these are shapes, this is text, and this is outlined text, really. It was just taking this, adding a stroke around it and an overlay of a different color, and it made that. Just so you kind of have a feel for how this went. So let's talk about the tools that we have first so you can kind of visualize how you are going to want to build things yourself. Because then, again, this is a patch builder. We're creating something from new, and I always find it best to think of things from the bottom up. So the bottom being the base of this patch, up to these elements that we have on the top, the text, etc. So I know from the get-go that I'm going to want to have edging, right, around the outside. That's easy enough. Well, that's where these brushes here come into play. We have our patch edge. That's pretty thick at 75, 60, 45. These are all like pre-done for you, but you can always scale them down or up. I wouldn't scale up too much. When we scale up too much, things start to look a little puffy. That's like the best way I can describe it, or blurry even. Not terribly so, but you kind of see there it's like a little blurrier, not quite as crisp as at our original size here. But yeah, you can always scale up, down, whatever. So 75, 60, and you scale up or down, but they're already resized for you just for ease of use. Then we have these stitches that are, I have some straight stitching like that. We have, and also in various sizes. I forgot to rearrange this one. This one belongs up here. So sorry guys, you might want to move that, just drag it to where it belongs if you're a little OCD about things, or maybe not OCD. I'm a Virgo. I'm super messy in my home, but when it comes to work things, I am a perfectionist, which, I mean, it's not a terrible thing, right, to be a perfectionist. So these are these stitching brushes, which honestly, like, I feel like they could be useful outside. These crack me up because I feel like they look like a little mouths, like smile. But you'll see how it works all within, because when I create things, when I create these toolkits, I spend quite a bit of time looking at actual patch elements, to kind of get a feel for the finest of details. And one of the details I noticed is that when we have our edging, so I'm going to go ahead and make this edging again here, like that. So we have this edging that goes around. I noticed that when they get gathered at the bottom, that it's sort of like this little cute blip thing going on. So the idea is to keep it a little bit underneath, right? Slightly. Or I went the wrong way. Sorry about that. Like that. Of where it pulls in. So if I just move it or whatever, it is a minor little detail, but it's a detail. You know, like the more detail you add to things, I find the more realistic they look. So yeah, these are our stitches, and I have these extra ones that kind of go over the top because I saw some patches that had like binding kind of over the top of the edging. I wonder if it's like that to like keep it from fraying or just for aesthetics. It looks kind of cool. You might need to scale this one up a little bit, but yeah, it goes over the top. And when we start to add our styles, so I'm going to go ahead and add styles to this so you can kind of get a feel. And we have like that, and then I could just add like stitching styles and another style here. And that's what it all starts to kind of come together and look like something a little more realistic, right? So yeah, those are our stitching brushes. Ah, what did I do? I had selected too many things. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to freak out on you. All right, so let's get to it. I've shown you our brushes. I've shown you some of the styles. So we have our edging, we have our backgrounds, right? So we have the one like this, which I find is the most common looking one, is that one. And well, that one was less common, but one that it is used. And this one was probably the next most common one, was this backing here. Was very, I saw it a lot. I saw it a lot of things. Then the best we can do with styles, all right, is horizontal and vertical when it comes to the way your elements are being embroidered on. So we have vertical embroidery, all right, in various sizes, and then horizontal embroidery also in various sizes and motifs, if you want to say like embossed in like that. You can see how it like pushes in, or just beveled out. Different scales for the for this as well. It just, you know, I like to give you all options. You know me, I get a little carried away. I start making styles. The next thing you know, there's this many styles versus like 8. But you know, like, and then you can play around too. I know you're a little limited in elements, but if you're in Creative Cloud here, like, you can have a good time. In fact, in Creative Cloud, what you can do, which I think is a lot of fun, is, oops, let's move forward a little bit. Here we are. You can take something like this. I could add the background to it, right? Like that. We could make this into a new smart object, which actually I I made a quick action for converting to a smart object, so I'm just gonna hit play. That's a smart object that now. And then I would just add another style over it, like that. These are edging styles just to add a little extra oomph, you know. So I'm going to leave that one like that. So I have the backing the way I want it. I've to get that same effect in elements. I believe in elements you can, by clicking a style, and then you can, I think they like layer on top of each other. So I think you already can do that. If not, another way around it is to group. So you have a style applied. You're going to group those layers together. Control G, Control Alt G, depending on your program. It's Control G in Photoshop. And then just apply the style to the group then. Like that. Okay. So next up, let's start building this bad boy. I know I want the edging to be this red, right? So I'm going to go ahead and pick that color. Then I'm going to pick the brush itself. You might need to add a layer over the top depending on the type of layer, because like it doesn't let me look at brushes whenever there's a smart object, because you can't brush onto smart objects. It would have to be something that's already simplified or rasterized. So I'll just create a layer a lot of times over it and get a vibe or feel for how that is. So I think I'm going to go ahead and go with 60. So I know for the brush 60. So I'm going to go here. Here's my actions. My favorite one is to create a path from a selection. So I just command or control click my base layer here. I'm going to choose create path from selection, but since I made this a while ago, I want to make sure I don't really have any paths that are, you know, messing around here that shouldn't be. So I'm going to get rid of that one. I don't know what that was, but getting rid of it. And create path from selection. So now we have the path. Now we are going to stroke path. But we also have create path from a raster, so that's a simplified. We have create path from shape, you know what a shape is, and create path from text, which is, again, these are all kind of a given. Anytime you're creating a path from a selection, it is not going to be perfect, especially here in Photoshop. So, and I'm not great at editing paths within Photoshop. Illustrator is your man for paths because that's its main gig is, paths and vectors. So anyway, but I try to do it so the tolerance was around 2 to kind of smooth it out a little bit. But if you're using text, don't rasterize the text, keep it as a text layer and create your path from text. That way you'll get a really good crisp path. Because again, our brushes are following that path around. All right, so again, stroke path. And I think this clipped down into the other one, which is hilarious. So I'm going to drag that so that does not happen because that's not what it's supposed to do. And go ahead and use stroke path like that. There we go. So we have that. Now I'm going to go back again. I'm going to create yet another selection from the path. But here I want to pull it in because I want to go ahead and create a little bit of a path inside that's following right there at the bottom. So I'm going to go with select, modify, probably contract by 25 pixels, I think is going to do it. And it does. I could probably go in a few more, but I'm going to be happy with this. Again, we're creating a path from selection. Then I'm choosing my brush over here, my stitching brush. And I think this time I want to use the V. I like the little V stitching. I think it looks really cute. That one right there. So I'm going to use that. Again, you don't, this is happening because the way I have grouped this together, just so you know, like it's grouping into. So even if I do stroke path, and let me go ahead and show you just so you know what would happen in this case. It strokes the path. It's just clipped into there. All I would have to do is to, well, excuse me, I was doing it by hand as opposed to using the action. It's there, it exists. It's just clipped on. So you just move it, drag your layer above the other one. There it is. So yeah, when we get to grouping layers and doing things like that, maybe do that after instead of before. All right. I like showing y'all when I mess up because you're going to need to troubleshoot too, right? Like that's the thing. We all have to troubleshoot. So this one I had added edging, which was similar, this sort of brush here, this vertical that goes around. So I know from the get-go that this is going to need to be a thinner brush. So this is 20. If you had something like text, keep in mind that you're going to want to spread it out, and I'm going to show you what it would end up looking like here anyway, but just keep that in mind. But for this, I think it's going to work. I'm going to want it to be white or like a grayish white anyway. This 20, again, I'm going to make a selection from this layer. So Command Control click, again, create path from selection, stroke path, and there we have it. Doop, 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 doop around. Now let me show you, because I bet you're thinking, hey, you could do the same thing around that C, right? So let's go ahead, or the text, instead of using backing. So I have my red here. So of course I'm always going to make sure I have the color that I'm wanting to use first. I'm going to get rid of, or just hide that layer for now, and I'm going to choose this one. This is not a text layer. This is a smart object. So I'm going through this. I'm making the path out of the selection. It's not going to be perfect. All right. It's not terrible, but it's not perfect. So I know right away that 20 is going to be too big. And I also know right away that when we do this, our stroke is going to follow the middle like that, not the outside. All right. So should I do that in the future and I want it to be along the outside, all right, we're just going to step back to our selection here, and we're going to consider the scale of the patch. So I don't want to use 20. I think I'm going to scale this down to 10. I still want to use a brush, but I'm scaling it down to 10. I'm going to go to Select, Modify, Expand, and I'm going to expand it by 10. No, 5, half. Expand by 5. You can see what it's done there. Now, because of this, either way, no matter what happens, because again, this isn't a text layer, it's going to get wonky. Because see, like it's going to stroke like that inner part, but it's not going to stroke around. So it just becomes a bit of a mess. So that's why I'm wary. Otherwise, the only way I can get it to follow properly is like this, because it's actually on the letters. You know, so I guess I'm just going to have to go for it, guys. We're just going to go for it. Selection. All right, we made a path. I scaled my brush down. It's the red color. It's 10. And let's see. Let's see what it looks like. And so stroke path. I don't hate it, but I don't love it. I don't love it, but I don't hate it. Do you feel me? Like, I don't know. Like, it's not bad, but it's not great. I just, so I would still want to keep this backing layer anyway. Maybe that could be a different color. But yeah, just keep in mind when you're doing this, you'll need to space things out more if you want a thicker one. You're going to want to add a selection so it actually would go like all the way around, if that makes sense. Also, what I would do for that is, just because of the lightness of the brush, sometimes you might just want to duplicate that layer. So let me turn this off so you can see. So that would be, I would just take that layer and duplicate it, just to sort of give it a little more oomph. I'm not hating it as much now, but still it doesn't look as great as I would like it to. But you can do it. You know, I'm not stopping you. I'm just saying it might not look the way you want it to look. For me, for this specifically, I don't want it for that. All right. So all of this to talk about this darn patch. Sorry. So we've built. All right. We have our edging here. Now it's time to have fun with styles. All right. So here's our styles. We have the edge here, and we have, this is for the thicker ones, this is for thinner, and then you have with texture and without. All right, so this is a smaller one, right? So I said thinner, so I would use a smaller one like that. And let me zoom in a bit so you can kind of see. Just kind of see. You can see. I really need to do better about centering things when I'm making these videos, don't I? It's been a second. Y'all will forgive me, right? So see there. This, I'm going to use a stitching style. We have 2 stitching styles, 1, 2. I like the first one. I like the second one. I like them both. We'll leave that one. This one, I think I'm going to do a horizontal stitching. I think it's going to look the way I want it to look. That's a little big. Scale it down a little bit. All right, this one, horizontal stitching as well. But we could also do it as a an emboss if we wanted to. Even smaller. Bevel. Yes. This one I'm going to do vertical stitching. So vertical stitching, or embroidery, it should say vertical stitching or vertical embroidery. Fine or not. And there we have it. So we're almost done, right? Then the last styles that I have here are the horizontal and vertical threads. So it's literally talking horizontal this way, vertical that way. It just adds a wave. And it's meant to make it look the way thread looks whenever it's embroidered into something. It's not a perfect, pristine edge. It is imperfect. So again, these are minor details, but y'all know me. Now this one I might do twice. It looks okay, but I think I'm just going to do one more. So I just run it twice. That's it. Just run it 2 times, and there we go. Here's our little patch, right? Like that's, how close did I get? How close did I get to what it was? Oh, I used a different little stitch there, but for the most part, pretty similar. Yeah? Yeah. We did it. We did it, guys. We did it. All right. Another little tip or trick. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to make this whole thing into a smart object again, because I want to do something. So convert to smart object, whatever you want to do. One way to make something look less perfect would be to warp it. So again, you would go to Edit, Transform, Warp, right? And just like wonky it around. Now, when we're using a smart object, it's taking into account like this whole area. So it's not working the way I want it to, but you can kind of see it moving around. Cancel. Sorry for the sound. Yeah, sure. All right, step back. The other way we can do it is liquefy, which is my favorite way. So I'm going to come here to liquefy. I have my little brush, or not little brush, it's pretty big. And I'm just going to zoom in, and I'm just going to move just like a little bit, just like a twinge to like make it less perfect, because nothing in life is perfect, right? It's just a little off, just a little, not a lot, just a little bit. All right. So again, this is just a little step to, or a tip, I guess, to add realism. So before, after. It's a minor detail, but it's something I like just to make things feel a little more realistic. So there we are. That's your patch builder, guys. That's it. Those are the tools. Don't be afraid of your paths. Always make sure that the paths have been deleted if you're going to be using your from selection from text. And I do want to show you from text or whatever. Look at me. I'm just like hiding everything away now. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and create a text layer. Text is awesome. All right. Barlow. Let's do bold. There we go. I'm going to increase the spacing between these letters, because remember I told you if I want to go around all of it, I need space for that to be able to happen. So I'm going to go by like 300. Yeah. And let's make this an actual, decent size. Maybe I shouldn't put so many words. What do you guys think? Text. Is that enough? That's enough. It's good. All right, we're going to go to 150, and then I'm going to increase this to 300. I'm making a patch out of text. There we go. All right, so for this one, again, I'm going to be creating a path from text right there. This gives us a perfect path. Perfect. Exactly as this text was created out of vectors in whatever program, this is what it is intended to be. So if I want to do the outside, you would have to take this selection, expand it. Remember, this was part of my my issue before. So the way you take this and make it into a selection is you're going to go to your path window. And if you don't have it, go to window, go to paths, and you'll have it. Just take it, and again, Command Control click, and it's going to create your little army of marching ants. Select, modify, expand. We're going to expand by 20. All right. So if I use the one that's 40, I'm thinking in half, that'll be 20 that way, 20 that way, right? So yay math. They said you wouldn't have to use math, but at least it's simple math, right? All right, so we're getting our brush again, just to get an idea. What did I do with my brushes? Here they are. So this is 45. Close enough. What do you guys think? It's going to follow like that, and it's just going to go right over the edge. All right. So now I'm creating a path from the selection instead. Totally opposite of what I said I was going to do, because, why not? I'm deleting this one because it would follow that path instead of the one I'm about to make. So path from selection. See how it's less perfect? There's more anchors. All right, so I'm going to go with the crazy color that y'all will see. All right, and we're just going to go ahead and use our stroke path. See how it's not quite, and then we get these little areas here. So you would have to go in by hand, all right? You would have to imagine the path and try to follow like that to fix that. And even then, that's not quite perfect, right? So just keep in mind, you would have to fix these little areas. Again, this is why I don't fully recommend unless it's very large text, because actually this, it should work fine. It is, I chose a bold text, but this is if you're trying to outline, this is what you would have to do. All right, so stepping back, here we are. We have our perfect path, yay. Let's look here. We have our stroke it, excellent, great. We're gonna go ahead and go to stroke path. I'm keeping that blue, I like it. There, looks better, right? It even did our edges a little bit. If you want to add more, it's tricky. It's tricky. So what I would do is if you are going to add more, create a layer above it. That way, if it's not perfect, you can just move it around a little bit. You know, you want to be able to move these little areas around. Another thing you can do is just have the stroke the whole thing over again for a second time. So let me show you what that would look like. Again, I'm just selecting my text layer, making create path from text, just like that, and stroke path. And it's just, again, it's just filling it in a little bit. Not even a little bit, like it's filling it in quite a bit. It looks a bit more uniform here on the edges. You see that? Ta-da! All right, now we're going to take that layer again. I'm just doing a command click this time. I'm going to select, modify, contract by 20. Yep, that gets me where I want to get. I'm going to do stitching for this time. That's going to go around. So I'm just going to say create path from selection. I'm using the same color. I'm using this brush, and I'm just going to choose, again, stroke path. I'm going to have to drag it above the rest. All right, you're always going to have to move it. Don't worry about that. It's not a big deal. Just move it. And now let's add our styles. So this is underneath. This is above. And then this is a stitching one. And then this is text, and it's the background. So let's go ahead and use one of these. See? So one layer or two. I like it looking a little more frazzled. I just like the feel of it, but that's with two. And that's how that works. Now, I know this has been a bit of a long tutorial, but I do like showing y'all when I make a mistake. I don't like to stop because I feel like when I'm troubleshooting for myself, I'm troubleshooting for you as well. But yeah, you have these brushes, you have these styles. Layer it up, think from the base up. All right. And you're going to do great. You're going to do great. It's a lot of fun. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to use your actions. Don't be afraid to use these styles. You remember, this isn't real life. You can always start over again. Yeah, you always can start over again. Hey, and in real life, you know, I guess you can kind of start over too, right? My inspirational thought for the day. There, now the lily pad's less perfect. Ha 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 ha. Look, I'm like, what is it going to look like in black? What do you guys think? Ta-da! The lily pad. Yeah, so that's it. So Patch Builder 2.0 available at the lily pad. Sorry for not having a tutorial for you initially, but yes, I'm back. I'm going to try to have more releases, especially when it comes to styles and maybe some actions. And I hope you guys enjoy this one. Have a fantastic day, and have any questions, comments, post them below. I will try to get to you, and bye-bye.